horses in this scenario. They may not have been mentioned, but I'm obviously interpreting this right because it says right here. Now, if you think that that's metaphorical, it's incumbent upon you to back that up because it does say horses, and so therefore we have to assume it's literal before we assume that it could be metaphorical, and that seems nonsensical to me. As a matter of fact, I think a literal interpretation is not backed up by this passage, and I'll tell you why. It is not just difficult for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. It's impossible. It is impossible. It will never happen. If it goes through the eye of a needle, it ain't a camel anymore. So why would Jesus say it's impossible right after saying it's difficult, unless he's being metaphorical, unless he's exaggerating, which is a common literary and oral tool that we all use today? The facts fit better with the presumption that Jesus was being metaphorical than they do with the presumption that he was being literal.
All right, let me respond how I come to that conclusion. And he said unto him, Why callest thou good? There is none good, but that is good. Blah, blah, blah. He saith unto him, Which is Jesus? Thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witnesses. These are commandments that he put above what he was going to say. So these commandments tell me that he's speaking literally, not metaphorically. Otherwise, why add the commandments into this passage?
To go up a little higher in the passages. So we're taking in the context of much more of the conversation that's going on. You're taking in more of a limited slice of it.
So here's the crux of this to me. The guy says, I've done all this, I've done this. Jesus says, well, did you obey the commandments? The guy says, yeah, I did. And Jesus says, well, if you want to be perfect, then sell all your shit too. He's not saying, well, you didn't follow all the commandments, you forgot one. That's not what Jesus is saying. Jesus said, did you follow the commandments, all of them? And the guy says, which ones? And Jesus says, this, this, this. The guy says, yes, I did. And Jesus says, okay, great. Well, if you want to be perfect, then do this too.
And if this person wants to go to heaven, okay, Jesus is telling him that do this as well. Otherwise, you're not going to be with God. If you are not with God, you are going to hell. So you may not think that it's a commandment, but you're going to hell if you're not walking with God. How does that not equate to a commandment? Let's get secular opinion in on this. He's been having his hand up for a while. He wants to bring in it.
Maybe I'm jumping in this a little late. I actually just came in here, so maybe this is already talked about. What I'm getting from the conversation, I think it's starting to go a little bit different direction, but I think it was the question of to be like a perfect Christian, or to basically give up your material possessions. And last night we were talking about Acts 5, actually, and I think it's kind of funny that this topic's coming up with Matthew. In Acts 5, it's the story, I'm not sure the guy's name here, Ananias, I believe, and his wife, which sold his property, gave most of it to Peter, but they kept a little bit for themselves, but not the majority. They gave them the bulk of it to Peter, and the man was struck dead by God. And then his wife, who came 3 hours later, who didn't know what was going on, was confronted by them again and was struck dead as well for not giving everything to the Lord. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
That's my connection, okay, that I wanted to connect someplace else in the Bible to this. And the thing is, what we continued on talking about with Acts is that it didn't seem so much as he just had a heart attack. He was killed on the spot, because of the old traditions were that if you disobeyed, you were to be stoned. And that comes from, again, I think Matthew, where it's talking about stoning the children of those of the Pharisees that would do things outside of, they wouldn't hold to their tradition, and these people are to die the death. Die the death specifically goes back to Deuteronomy with stoning. So all of these connections need to be made, and this is why I'm saying that you have to know God. You have to be with God. And when you are with God, you make the connection to Acts. You make the connections to Matthew with the Pharisees and giving off of what you would inherit in such a way that you would actually use such land instead of giving it all to Jesus. And then the connections to Deuteronomy that you are to be stoned. You have to go, bebopping around here to make these connections. If are fluent in making these connections for you, you might be able to see where I'm coming from. If you get the gist of what I'm talking about, you may be able to do it yourself.
Can I just say, though, if you're looking to win anybody over, if you're looking to convince somebody that their Bible is flawed, or that their religion has holes in it, or that they're making, some kind of logical fallacy in their thinking, can you see how much work it is to do that, trying to nitpick Bible verses like this, as opposed to tackling much harder hitting issues that are all-encompassing? I mean, this is... we've been debating for how long? I don't even know how long you guys were going before I even came in. And you're arguing that he should interpret something this way so that your argument against what he's interpreting works. I mean, you don't see a problem with that?
You're suggesting that we haven't already exhausted those other avenues.
I know you haven't, because if you had, you'd be still talking about them right now.
We've gone with credos,
also,
from the existence of God, to oscillations of neutrinos. Was that him that brought up the oscillations of neutrinos, or somebody else? I forget. We run the gambit. Okay. There is no one specific magic bullet or silver bullet that is going to work to try and show inconsistency, whether of a God or the inconsistency of the Bible. If people are taking this doctrine as the word of their God, whether just inspired or inspired or the inerrant word of, and notice the inflections there.
Kind of like they say that
inspired.
God can.
I hope you understand what I'm talking about. Showing these inconsistencies and making these links, okay, is the only way that you can show these inconsistencies. When you watch some of the more intelligent people preaching faith, what do? They do the same thing. They make connections from one part of the Bible to another. And I would admit that they are in many instances more trying to confuse things in many instances. However, it is clearly not something that we are trying to do. We are trying to dot the I's and cross the T's. And to back up what we say here, look at Acts. Now look at another passage in Matthew. Now look at another passage in Deuteronomy. Follow the links. Okay? This is basically saying that you are to walk in the way, in order for you to walk in the way of God, okay, you need to know what God is about. You need to know the Bible. In order for you to enter the kingdom of heaven, you have to adhere to these commandments. And this would seem, as Dog as proposing, this is a commandment, but he's doing it in such a nice way. Okay? He's not just coming out with the fire and brimstone as Old Testament. He's trying to do it in a PC manner. But nonetheless, it is showing him that unless you walk with God and give up your possessions, you're not going to. Let's go. I don't know who was first. Doctor or Dog?
Certainly,
okay, Doc.
What I would what you're attacking is what he should believe, or at least what you say he should believe. the AAL, if you're going to attack someone's ideas, someone's beliefs, attack what they actually think and believe, and what their opinions that they actually hold, rather than telling them what they are supposed to believe and then attacking that. Because it's not a straw man, but it's nonetheless it's a pain. It doesn't do anything. You're not attacking one of their ideas or something that they believe in. All you're doing is attacking something that you think they should believe, when in actuality
showing a logical progression, okay, of the events that are mentioned in